Here at West Bank, we're really excited to sponsor Real Success, a new CBJ series featuring Iowa City's own Nate Kaeding. 2018 marks West Bank's 125th year of helping business owners and entrepreneurs find their own versions of success, whether that be opening a new store, planning for retirement, or anything in between. Please enjoy this edition of Real Success, hosted by Nate Kaeding, and thanks for watching.
Thanks, Sarah, for joining me today. We're at a perfect spot for a rainy Monday. The
Absolutely.
You can't beat a nice warm cup of coffee at the Hamburger Inn. But yeah, this is Real Success. It's a new series that we're doing in partnership with the Corridor Business Journal and Flow Media. We talk to local business leaders about their lives, their professional careers, how they got to the point they are, how they became successful. Yeah. Today we're going to talk about a specific component of success, which is planning and preparation. As a former athlete, you learn firsthand and very quickly how important preparing and preparation is. As we sat there in the NFL, we had every moment of every day kind of plotted out for us from Monday through Sunday. And you know, you're lifted at this time is all the game prep, tape review, film review, all those different things. And we all know the same as in the business world and in academia.
Yep.
As a leader of the College of Business here, we all know there's a lot of planning and strategic planning and daily preparation all the way through. So that's what we're going to focus our conversation on today for the most part.
Excellent. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. Thanks for joining us. How did you build up to this point in your career as a dean? Did you do anything specific to prepare yourself for this sort of leadership role? Was this always sort of a dream for you?
Pretty quickly, I got into leadership positions with an academic background. You know, although I loved the classroom, I loved the writing, I was doing all of that because I'm looking at the students and their experience and always thinking, how can we make that better? Mm-hmm. And you can make that better within your classroom and within your relationships with students, or you can do it at a bigger level. And then pretty quickly that led me to doing things at the college level and the College of Business. And then eventually I took it up to the top of the campus at Tennessee to be in the provost office there as a vice provost to see how I liked the view from there. Mm-hmm. And so I will say two things. I'm an educator at heart. Both of my parents were educators, so it's probably genetically wired in me to do something around that. And I'm a social worker at heart. I really believe that my job in the world is to help people get to the next place and get to the better place for them, for their families, for their communities. So it's kind of fun. I wake up every day thinking I'm doing the most important thing in the world to me.
So it wasn't necessarily a purposeful progression up or planning for the next.
It was kind of a combination of following my passion, which was, what's the student experience and how can we make that better? But also you look around and you see problems and you wait for someone else to solve that, or eventually you say, I'll jump in and solve that, right? And I'm not good at sitting around and waiting for other people to move. I'm a doer, I'm very action oriented, and so, pretty quickly I said, I can fix that, and then once you do that, people just start giving you more and more things to work on, right? Your plate just gets bigger all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So walk me through the first phone call from the University of Iowa when the dean position got posted. Yeah. Through the interview process.
Yeah. I was waiting for my daughters to get to a point where they didn't need me around anymore, which they didn't. And I was waiting for, kind of the timing on my career. And that all started coming together around 2011, 2012. And there's a market for deans that all kind of happens at once. And so everyone's out there interviewing and going from school to school. And in fact, I ended up in the same searches with many of the same candidates because we're all kind of in that cycle together. But I had not applied here. And I got a call from the headhunter who was doing the search, was leading the search for Iowa, and they said, we've seen your stuff. We've seen it out in other searches. And I was geographically, going pretty broad. And they said, we think you're just what they need at Iowa right now. We think you're a really great fit for what they're asking for. And I said, well, tell me more about that, because I was completely open to going anywhere at that point. And the more they talked about it, the more interested. And I said, yeah, I'll have that conversation. And then, it went from a Skype interview to a airport interview to a campus interview. And it really was all the stars aligned.
Sure.
And I will tell you, because people always ask me why here? And it was two things. One is, I think there has to be a very strong alignment of values with the people that I'm working with, because it's just miserable otherwise, right? And coming here, loved the people I could see doing really good work with, Midwest, love it. But the other thing is, and I almost just said this, I like to build and not to maintain. And so I definitely was looking for a situation.
There's some blue sky in the air.
You
can
can
put your own footprint on it.
And I would stand up in front of every school I talked to and said, if you just want someone to keep the trains running, you do not win. We will all be miserable. I'll be miserable, you'll be miserable. And when I came here, in addition to finding people whose values, were completely aligned and who I respected, the folks at the school said, we feel really good about what we're doing, but we also think there's a little bit of treading water going on here, and we're ready to kind of envision that next thing, and we want someone to help us do that. And I said,
okay. So
that would be me.
In preparation of either that first Skype interview or the airport meeting, walk me through exactly what kind of research you were doing on the university? What did you do in preparation of those particular conversations?
Yeah. One of the things that I had done was throw a wide net geographically, but I had stayed within public schools, and I knew that those kind of public flagship,
universities.
were where I wanted to be, with a completely comprehensive program, undergraduate, graduate, all of those kinds of things going on. And so I ended up at kind of the top state institutions in a variety of different places. And so when I got the call from Iowa, I thought, well, that kind of fits the bill. But then I literally, started doing research on the campus, on the college in particular, and found that there were a whole lot of similarities in some ways between where I was, which was the University of Tennessee, the size here, the kind of programs we had.
So you could reference that current experience during that conversation.
That kind of thing. And so, no two campuses are ever the same, but there was enough overlap that I thought, yeah, I can go do that.
Sure. Were there questions in any of the interviews that threw you off guard that you weren't necessarily prepared for?
I will tell you the one question that you get asked that I think is pretty crazy to ask very early in someone's interview process, and that's, what's your vision for our college? Well, that would be pretty arrogant, for me to kind of walk in off the street and say, I've spent, a couple hours on the internet looking at you guys, and I've got the answer. And it's so interesting because you get that question over and over. People kind of want to know what you see coming ahead. And of course, I would say I can't answer that question, but here's what I know. I know what's going on nationally and internationally in business education, because I had been at the top of some leadership organizations in B school, accreditation, education, those kind of things. And I had spent a lot of time in the rooms with deans talking about what was going on, what was rocking their world. And so I knew what the larger environment was demanding of business schools. And then I said, what we'll do is we will come in here and craft the unique solution to the University of Iowa. I would have gone into any college of business in 2012 when I arrived here and said, whatever you've been doing is not going to work for the future. What does it look like 10 years out, 20 years out? The question would have been the same, but the answer would differ by school. Absolutely. And that's where it had to be a co-created answer. So the thing that I brought was a lot of expertise and a real deep understanding of what was being demanded of business schools, what was going on with our employers, what was, innovation that was going on, all those kind of things that maybe anyone in the Tippie College wasn't paying attention to. But then I had to get the team around me to say, let's envision in that world where we place ourselves, and what's our play in that world, and how are we going to plant a flag? Exactly.
Absolutely. So now, as you're doing the hiring, as the dean, what advice would you give, or what have you seen? It's like someone that's interviewing and they're a successful interviewee and you're interviewing them. What advice can you give for someone how to prepare for a job interview?
You know, I think two things are really important. I always look for a lot of enthusiasm for the job, and it seems crazy, but you don't always get that.
Interesting.
You know, sometimes you get, well, you know, this is kind of the logical next step for me, and you know, it's thoughtful and it's analytic and all that. I literally want to see fire in the belly, right? Because we're all running fast and hard. And if you don't have that, then you're just going to burn out.
Right.
And
that's a great point.
Not be able to get where you. So I look for that. I look for someone that knows themselves. I'm almost more interested in someone who has confidence in who they are than necessarily knowing the job. I mean, there's always a general skill set that you're looking for, but a lot of that can be learned on the job, and you don't have to know all of it coming in. But what you don't want is someone who isn't really clear about who they are, what their values are, what they do well, what they don't do well, how they work with other people. And so that self-awareness piece, I think, is huge. And if you bring me both of those, we're 90% there.
Right.
And then we're just kind of tweaking that particular job.
That's great.
That particular need.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, as a Tippie alum, we're all proud to have you at the head of the school, and really certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for a cup of coffee.
Well, as a Tippie dean, I will say I could not be luckier than to be where I am. I love my job. I get up every day excited to be there. We have an unbelievable campus. I think Iowa City just rocks in all kinds of ways, and you and I know, because we've gotten to work on how do we bring the campus and the community closer together. We've got insurmountable opportunity there.
Yeah, we got a lot of it.
And then the final thing is, for a Southern girl, there was a Midwesterner in me trying to get out all those years, and I didn't know it till I got here.
We've been happy to steal you from the South.
It's all good.
Long time to come. But
absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
All right.